This is what the Outbound Ghost looked like about 6 months ago when I made my previous devlog, and this is how it looks like now. As you can see, there are some pretty insane changes. The game has many new characters, many new environments, and most obviously of all, it has turn-based RPG combat. This may surprise some of you since I've previously said that I have no intention of adding such a thing, even though the game is very inspired by Paper Mario. And the reason for this wasn't so much that I didn't like turn-based combat or that I felt that it didn't fit the game. It's actually the complete opposite. I absolutely love turn-based RPGs, and I thought that it would fit the game insanely well, but it just wasn't really feasible for one reason, and that's budget. When you make a turn-based RPG, you've got to have enemies, and party members, and skill VFX, and everything, and obviously this means that if the game has this mechanic, then all of the art for the new characters has to be made. 6 months ago, when I made my last devlog, this just wasn't feasible. It was completely out of budget and out of scope, and my intention was to finish the Outbound Ghost, see how it did, and then make an RPG as my follow-up if it was possible. Well, obviously that didn't happen, and you might be wondering, how is this possible? And there's only one reason, and that's because we've actually partnered up with a publisher. So the Outbound Ghost is being published by Digirati, and we just announced this at the Future Game Show. My future self actually just uploaded this on the second we made the announcement on the show, and we've also re-revealed that the game is coming to Steam, Switch, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, and the Xbox Series consoles. I had already confirmed this with the success of one of the Kickstarter stretch goals, but now we have an actual dedicated porting team that's going to get the games running super well on those platforms. On top of supporting with the budget, Digirati has also helped out with the UI reworks, the dialogue system, QA, and a bunch of other stuff. It's been awesome to work with them because there's a lot of back and forth and a lot of support in areas that a traditional publisher generally wouldn't be involved in. For example, the company's brand director made the whole baseline for the UI design, and not only made it look many times better than it originally did, but I also feel like I learned so much about UI design in this process. Digirati's porting partner also remade the whole dialogue system from the ground up to make for super fast cutscene editing and the feasibility of allowing every single dialogue interaction to have the same cutscene-like properties. So yeah, tons of incredible stuff. The game is now in a position where I could have only dreamt it would be back when I made my last devlog 6 months ago. Of course, I don't want to beat around the bush. A major part of that is the combat. I designed the combat such that it would take the best aspects of Paper Mario-like gameplay and the strategic depth of classic JRPGs. One of the most important mechanics in the combat is the Ether system. It works a bit like the point storage in Bravely Default and Octopath Traveler, if you've ever played those games. Basically, every character has Ether points, or AP, that are used to act. So every time you do an action, be it attack an enemy, buff a party member, or anything else, it uses AP. So if a character has 2 AP, they can first buff themselves with the first point, and then attack the enemy with the second one. Every turn, you get 1 AP automatically. But if you want to, you can use the Ether Up command to gain an additional AP and take half damage until your next turn. Since different characters have different amount of maximum AP they can hold at most, they all feel incredibly different to each other. One character, for example, has a high max AP but very low base stats. This makes it a really bad attacker or healer, but is really good at buffing since it can do many buffs in one turn. Buffing skills don't require base stats, so it's a really great synergy. And speaking of characters, if you've seen the Outbound Ghost before, you might have noticed that none of them are familiar. In the Outbound Ghost, your party members aren't characters that you meet around the world, they're figments of your imagination. Think of them working kind of like personas from Persona or Pokemon from Pokemon, you know? For example, this is the first figment you'll get. It's called Regret. It's a bit of a jack of all trades that does decent damage and can even buff and heal a bit. This other one is called Callousness. It's basically a tank and is able to take hits on behalf of other party members. This one's called Camaraderie, and it's a nice little figment that heals your other ones. So as you can see, they kind of represent a part of the main character's self, and their gameplay represents that as well. The way in which you add these figments to your party is experiencing exciting moments in the story that help your amnesiac main character get a piece of themselves back. Another awesome component of the combat is the new aspect system. If you've ever played Paper Mario, they work kind of like badges in that game. Essentially, enemies have item drops, and with those, you can forge aspects and equip them to your figments. For example, there is one that, whenever you get buffed or debuffed, that effect is doubled. In the game, you can only have 3 statuses at the same time, and you can only get rid of them through waiting them out, or apply new ones to override those 3. So So there's a high risk and high reward aspect to this one because you can get majorly debuffed and it really affects your stats, but it's also much easier to get rid of the debuffs. This can work really well with some strategies. Another one of my favorites is the mimicry aspect. What it does is it gives you a skill that turns you into anything that you select, friend or foe. Then you can use all of their skills. There are also some more basic ones that, for instance, just increase your damage by 10%, but there are tons of interesting ones that are super strategic to experiment with, and since each figment can equip 3, there are tons of possible strategic combinations. If you saw stuff about the Outbound guys before, you can see that there have been some pretty insane changes. Apart from all of these gameplay additions, the whole story and level design was reworked to match the quality of the other new stuff. Here's a little picture of what the town looked like in the old version, and here's how it looks like now. So tons of meta changes, and a lot of the old gameplay systems are still here, but vastly improved. For example, this is what the old lockpicking minigame looked like, and this is what it looks like now. Fits much better with the visual style of the game, and is much less janky. The word battles have also been reworked into this minigame, which I will go more in depth in a future video. So yeah, as you can see, there's an insane amount of new stuff that I can't really cover all here, but I've left a poll on my YouTube community tab, and that will allow you to vote for the next video's topic. The consistent devlogs are coming back, and I'll be uploading one every 2 weeks, and I look forward to seeing you again on the 8th of April for that one. See you.